Hey everyone, we are back with part 2 and this is where everything we created in part 1 will be put to use to make ServiceNow and Okta talk to each other. If you are here after watching the part 1 video, awesome. If not, I'll strongly recommend you to watch the part 1 video of the series first. In this video, we are going to configure ServiceNow end to end, the X.509 certificate, JWT keys, JWT provider, application registry, REST message. By the end, we are going to get a working access token from Okta to ServiceNow. Without much delay, let's get into it. So, before we start configuring ServiceNow, let's take a moment to understand what is actually going to happen under the hood. Because if this is clear, every field we configure in ServiceNow will make complete sense. We know that ServiceNow sends a request to Okta asking for an access token. That is straightforward. But here is what gets interesting in our setup. The request is not a plain HTTP message. ServiceNow is going to send it in a signed JWT format. Now the question is, what is a signed JWT? Right? So let's go through it one by one like a story. What is JWT? JWT stands for JSON Web Token. It is standard compact format for securely transmitting information between two parties as a JSON object. In our case, ServiceNow is going to create the message in this JWT format and send it to the Okta saying, hey Okta, it is me and this is what I need. Please give me an access token. JWT has three parts: header, payload and signature separated by dots. Let's go through each and every part in detail. The first part is header. Think of it as a metadata. It tells Okta what kind of token this is and how it was signed. This is our header object, and the first parameter is the algorithm. So the algorithm that we are using for signing here is RS256. We'll go in detail of what is this algorithm when it comes to signature. The second parameter is the type. It is JWT. This is for Okta to understand what format of message it is being received. The third parameter is the key ID. You can think of this as a unique ID of the key pair that we generated in Okta in part 1 video. With this key ID, Okta understands which public key to use to decrypt the signature for the validation. And this key ID, you can get it from Okta. Just navigate to Okta, go to your applications, and this is the application that we registered in the part 1 video. And here you can see the public key, and this is the key IDs. If there are multiple public keys, you can get the key ID that is matching with the public and private key that are using for the connectivity. So this is our key ID. Right. Now the second part, which is the payload. And this is where the claims live. The claims are the statements that ServiceNow is making about itself, like who it is talking to, and when this message expires. And this is our payload object. Let's go through one by one each and every parameter. The first parameter is the issuer. This is the client ID of your Okta app. So let's go to our Okta app, and this is our client ID. Copy, and this goes into this. Then the second parameter, that is subject. This is also the client ID in machine to machine communication. So since we are doing a machine to machine connectivity, this is the same value as the issuer. The audience, it's a Okta's token endpoint URL, which would be HTTPS our Okta ID that goes here okta.com slash Oauth 2 slash token. And now the last parameter is the expiry. This tells Okta the expiry time of the JWT message, and by default ServiceNow sets this to the current time, which is the time of the JWT message being created plus 3600 seconds. That means this message is valid for 1 hour. So let's get the time. So this is been a while. Let's copy and get the current time plus 3600 seconds. So that would be this. So copy, and that goes here without the comma. Perfect. Now comes the last part, which is the signature, the most important one. Before I explain exactly how this signature is created, let me give you a quick understanding of the concept which is used behind this creation of the signature, that is asymmetric encryption. Let's understand this with a simple analogy. Here, Alice wants to communicate with Bob securely, and Alice has the Bob's public key and Bob has the private key. These two keys are mathematically linked in such a way that if we encrypt a message using public key, it can only be decrypted with its mathematically linked private key, and vice versa. In our scenario, it is vice versa. ServiceNow has the private key and uses that to sign the JWT message, and Okta has the public key and uses it to verify the signature. If the signature matches, Okta trusts the message genuinely came from ServiceNow and nothing was tampered during the transit. Good. If you want to go in deeper on understanding of asymmetric encryption, I will provide few YouTube links in the description. Please go through them. Now back to the signature part of our payload. ServiceNow takes the base 64 URL encoded header, adds a dot, and base 64 URL encoded of payload, and runs the entire string through RS-256 asymmetric encryption algorithm using the private key that it already has. The output is the signature. Let's build this JWT message live on jwt.io and see how that looks. So let's go to jwt.io, and here what we are doing is JWT encoding, because ServiceNow encodes and sends it to Okta. The algorithm that we are using is RS-256. What we need is the header, so let's go and get the header, paste here. Let's remove the white spaces. Now what is the next parameter that we need is the payload. The payload, let's go copy, paste it here, and now we need the private key. This private key I already saved it from the part 1 video because Okta shows this only once. So let's paste it here. This long string with 2 dots separating 3 encoded parts, this is our signed JWT, and this is exactly what ServiceNow is going to send to Okta when requesting an access token. So let's copy this and save it. Let's adjust. it here. Perfect. Now this JWT reaches Okta. What Okta does once it receives the signed JWT message or payload? Okta will regenerate the signature with the public key it has and compares with the signature that is arrived. Let's verify this signature comparison on jwt.io. Now what we are doing is JWT decoding. Let's go to the decoder. Before going to the decoder, let's copy the payload, go to the decoder and paste it. Service when Okta decodes, it will get to know the KID and all other parameters in the header and the payloads. So now the verification of the signature. For that we need the public key. I have the public key saved already. You can get this public key from the Okta again. So once you copy, go, just paste the public key. And it's a valid public key, and you can see the JWT is validated and the signature is verified successfully. Since both the signatures were verified or matched successfully, two things are confirmed by Okta. First, this JWT message was signed by the authenticated holder of the private key, that is authenticity. The second, nothing in the header and the payload has been changed during the message transit, that is message integrity. Now the Okta is happy and it sends us the access token. If this concept is clear, now let's go into the ServiceNow and configure everything, and let's hit the message and see if we get the access token successfully or not. In ServiceNow, let's start the configurations by creating the X.509 certificate. For that, type certificate in the left navigation, and under system definition you will find the certificates. Let's create a new one. Let's give the name as Okta JWT private key, and the format would be the PEM, or the type would be Java KeyStore, and this is the file that we created in the part 1 video, and the password would be the password to unlock the Java KeyStore file. So once this is given, save. Let's attach the JKS file that we created in the part 1 video and click on validate. So it is validated successfully. One of the validations that ServiceNow does would be verifying whether the certificate is within the expiry date or not. So once this is created, the next configuration would be creation of the JWT keys. This is where we provide the JWT key header details. Let's name it as Okta JWT header. The signing KeyStore is the private key record, certificate record that we just created. Let's go to the JWT header. The first parameter is the algorithm. So algorithm is set to RSA256 by default, and the second one is the key ID. So let's copy this and save it here in the key ID. And signing key is the password for the JKS file, which we already provided in the previous step. The same value goes here. So once this is created, the next step would be creation of the JWT provider. Here we give the JWT claims, which is the payload. So let's name it as Okta JWT payload, and the signing configuration is the header that we created, and let's save this. And here we get the standard claims, which is audience, issuer, and the subject. So for this, let's go to our whiteboard again. The issuer and subject would be the client ID as we discussed. So let's copy and paste. Done. So the audience would be the Okta token endpoint. Let's copy that and paste. Let's remove the empty space and click on save. Now we have the JWT provider where the payload goes, and the JWT key where the header goes, and the X.509 certificate where the private key goes. Now the next configuration would be creation of the application registry in ServiceNow. Let's click on new, connect to a third party Oauth provider, and this would be Okta JWT access token. The client ID that we can copy from the payload. We don't need client secret for this way of authentication. I'll show you. The grant type would be the client credentials, and the send credentials. How are we going to request Okta for the access token? As we discussed, it is going to be private key JWT format, and we need to attach the payload here. And token URL, we can get the token URL again from the payload that we created just before, and paste and remove the empty spaces. Click on save. And if you noticed, when we selected send the message as private key JWT format, the client secret has become non-mandatory and default set some value, but this is not going to be needed in our way of authentication. And if you scroll down, the next step would be entity scopes. Let's go to Okta, and this is our application, registered application, and I have granted few scopes. So this is the access that ServiceNow gets to do within the Okta. I'll explain you what are these scopes for. Let's edit, let's copy and paste them in ServiceNow. Yep, and let's click on save. So this particular scope will allow the ServiceNow to read information about the groups and their members, and this particular scope will allow the ServiceNow to manage all the user profiles and create new user profiles. So once we define the application scopes, we should also define the application scopes under the entity profile. Don't forget this. Okta groups.read and Okta users.manage. Let's click on save. So once the application registry is created, the final step would be creation of the REST message, which will trigger an outbound request message. Right, so let's go to REST message, click on new and name it as Okta JWT get the access token. Endpoint, for now let's give the token endpoint and remove the empty space. Authentication, we are going to use Oauth 2.0, and the profile is the one that we just created, which is perfect. So, and save this. Now when we hit get Oauth token, the ServiceNow should go to the profile, which is this, and from there it should go to the application registry, get all the data and create a JWT message with the header, payload, and sign it with the certificate that we created and send it to Okta and get us the access token successfully. So let's see whether that is going to happen or not. Let's click on get Oauth token. I see some error, which is dPoP JWT header is missing. So this is some advanced level of security features, but for now our application doesn't need that. So for that we just go to Okta, and under general settings let's uncheck this dPoP and save. Let's go back to ServiceNow. Let's refresh and hit on get token again. Perfect. Now we have the Oauth token successfully, and you can see the message token is available but will expire soon within this limit of time. That's all for this video. We now have the access token. ServiceNow has successfully authenticated with Okta using private key JWT. In part 3 video, we take this access token and use it in a real life scenario. That one is going to be very interesting video. Don't miss the part 3. See you there. Bye bye.